So I just wanted to take you through the Lunchbox site. It's I don't know what we were thinking when we came up with this, but it's file collaboration for creatives. Put it in your Lunchbox. The three key points are store it, share it, collaborate. And the site we're working with has this 30-day trial to trial Lunchbox. This site is nothing spectacular. It's just a Squarespace site. There's some key things I just wanted to firstly show you about the form that we've got in the free trial form. So we're trying to limit it to only a few fields, but the phone number is pretty critical. It's optional for us. Because it's early in Lunchbox's life, we don't want to have a bunch of checkboxes or select boxes to say how they found out about us, because we won't really learn anything, but we'll keep that an open field so they can rant in there. And we've learned all sorts of information from that. And then I've tried to be a little bit quirky here with team size. We obviously do company size, which helps us start to segment the kinds of information that people would be interested in. But with Lunchbox, because we're a fairly new company and we're just trying to figure out you know, how we can activate our users better and how we can change what we call the journey based on what they've done in the product, we're going to start off today just looking at have they uploaded more than 5 files. Because if they've uploaded more than 5 files, from what we've seen, they're pretty engaged with our file storage service. Hopefully you can apply this to your own company. So I'm going to build this out from within Autopilot in a journey, but keep in mind you can use any application to do this. It's not so much as a product plug, but just something that obviously I'm quite familiar with. So this is the Autopilot interface, a pretty brand new account here. We have our dashboard, which we'll come back to, our contact manager, which is all of our marketing contacts, reporting settings, and a few other sections. But we're going to start with a new journey and really visualize and sort of whiteboard up this trial experience. And I'm going to show you each email and the content that goes into it and how we sort of change the journey based on the activity. So we do have built into the product this concept of a guidebook, which we have 30-day trials guides built in. So you can just steal the guide. I'll actually make it public today. So if anyone wants to go and like literally take it and rework the content in it as a launching pad for your own SaaS trial, you are more than welcome to do that. So I'll build it live and then I'll show you sort of you know, how it works today and everything there is to know about it. So we'll just give the journey a name. We'll call it SaaS Trial. Autopilot's a pretty simple application to sort of visualize this out. So we have triggers on the right-hand side here, actions, and then below that conditions. So a trigger is a trigger to start the marketing. So that might be with a SaaS trial. It's something as simple as just they submitted our sign-up form. If your sign-up process is a little bit more complex or you're using an event-based system like segment.com, you could fire the trial or start the trial through a segment event, which might be a new sign-up. You could also use our API to trigger a sign-up. There's various other ways, but I'm going to keep it really simple just for the sake of going through this today. And we're going to use this form submitted trigger. And so if we go back to our Lunchbox site and just go to this free trial page, I actually have set up our tracking code on this website. And so I can easily just start to track this form. So I'll just paste in the URL of the trial page. We'll call this form trial, hit continue, and then Autopilot will go and scan this, this form and figure out the structure of the fields and how it can capture that information. And then it gives us a preview of that below. And so it'll automatically map the fields that we need for our trial. But if we go back to our form, we have these unique fields, so like team size and how we heard. So in here, we'll say team size. I created these fields earlier, but you can just go ahead and add a custom field automatically. So I've got first name, last name, email, phone, team size, how heard. And I'm going to use that data to actually change the journey as I collect it. So we'll continue on. We'll add it in, and that's all I need to do. The form will now be captured, and any data that's submitted is going to be captured in Autopilot. So the first thing that everyone, I'm sure, does today when someone signs up for your application is sends a welcome email. So that's the most basic step that we're going to do today. And so we'll drag what we call an action in, send email here, and then I'll set that up in a minute. The two other things that we really like to do, and Guy mentioned this, the Instapage, and a number of our customers do this today, is if you're like me, you sign up to a lot of applications, and then you get the email, and you typically are almost programmed sometimes to ignore the welcome email. You're like, screw it, I don't want to, I get it. And so that's for us, more sophisticated users. The majority of users will actually read it, but the great thing is to be able to deploy this in-app message as well. And that in-app message is going to nudge them along in the journey further, or at least attempt to. And so we're going to push them into our sort of training webinar. So we'll do that step as well. And then at Lunchbox Files, we use Slack internally to motivate our team. So we're also going to send a Slack message with a really cool Giphy image. I heard that company's worth a lot of money now, so I thought I'd use it. So I've pasted a Giphy URL in here, so it's Donald Trump dancing every time we get a trial sign up. And then I'm using some variables in here to place that information onto my Slack channel, which I created earlier. And then below that, we're going to create a heads up message, and it's going to be called training webinar. And so what happens is after they sign up, we're going to deploy this message on any page in the application or the website. We don't care where it goes. We just want them to see it. I'm going to select myself to send it from, and I'll say hi, and then I'll use this personalization variable button to add their first name in. And our developers think it's funny to use all of my real details as the example content. So it'll say, hi Mike, thanks for joining Lunchbox. We run a weekly training webinar that will help you get set up. So book the webinar, or whatever the call to action might be. That's probably not the best example, but I can go and like configure the button and play around with it a little bit here. And then I don't really have a webinar, so I'll just redirect this to Google for the sake of demonstrating today. And this is just a preview of what it'll look like. So that'll display in the application on the website, and then they can go ahead and book the webinar. Now, the reason I show you that is it's incredibly effective because you've captured them, they're excited to sign up and try your products. You've got this window of opportunity that Guy mentioned earlier really early on in order to get them to do like further progress in the journey. And ever since we've started doing this, we get many more attendees to webinars and much more engagement throughout our trial experience by throwing up these messages when we know that there's a call to action that we want to work on. So let's look at the welcome email next. And I'm not going to build out all these emails. I've kind of created them all from scratch, but we will build the first one. And we'll call this our welcome to Lunchbox, just so we remember what the email is called. So what I want to show you here is we have these templates built in that are actually all the different types of emails that you would need to use as part of your trial process. So you can also steal these. And so the welcome template that I hope I selected the right one, I did, that I'm going to show you is, Guy talked about nudging them towards 3 things. And so for Lunchbox, we're gonna try and nudge them to do 3 things. The first thing I'm going to do is actually upload our amazing Lunchbox logo here into my email. And so what I'm going to do is say, get ready to collaborate over lunch as the headline. So this is an email we really like to use. It's a combination of HTML and personalization. So we're not trying to fake that the email is like coming from, being sent directly from someone, but we are trying to really personalize it and make it feel like it's coming from a real human. So we'll say community manager at Lunchbox Files. And so the 3 things at Lunchbox Files we want them to do is upload your first files, which is really important because that's our activation goal, so we're pushing them towards that. The second thing we want to do is share files with team members, because that's a really important step as well. And then the final is going to be follow, Guy, your mic's still on. So it's going to be follow our getting started guide. And that guide is going to sort of nudge them along. So it's these 3 key calls to action, the 3 things that we want them to do. And then in the subject, we'll make it a little bit formal, welcome to Lunchbox. And so that's our sort of first email. And you can come in and tweak this later, you can test it, but we're just going to keep it really simple for the sake of the demonstration today. And then so that's the day 1 email if we think about it that way. In Autopilot, you have this outcome wheel, and that's going to allow you to change the journey based on all of the outcomes of that shape. So with the email, I could actually change the journey based on them clicking or doing various things. But I'm just going to say, send the email, don't worry about it. And then a day later, we're going to check some things. And the things that we now need to check so we don't look stupid, and these are things that that, you know, I used to, before we built Autopilot, had to like go to the development team and be like, you know, can you go and do all this? But now I can sort of do it on my own. So I'm going to check our customers list and make sure they're not a customer yet, because I don't want to keep sending them these things if they've already paid. So we'll say, no, they're not a customer. And then the second thing is, I want to change the journey now based on that goal that I mentioned earlier, which is, have they uploaded greater than 5 files? So the way I'm sort of simulating this to go in is I'm using segment.com because I'm starting out, but there's various ways of getting the usage data in. And I can talk about that later, modeling some usage data around a user in order to change the journey. And I think the common mistake that I mentioned earlier people make is they think of activation too complex early on. So instead of just thinking about, can we get at least 40% of our users to upload more than 5 files to our service, which would be an amazing goal, they're like, well, they need to upload 5 files, they need to share, they need to do all these different things. And we made this mistake early on. We were like, they need to do this, they need to do that. And then we realized really all they need to do to have a much higher chance of buying our product is just publish their first journey. So let's focus every energy in our onboarding process and supplementing that with content to get them to just publish their first journey. That's all we care about, and still to this day, all we really care about, with a few more complexities. So we're going to split the journey at this point into the no and yes outcome. So have they uploaded greater than 5 files? No, they'll go that way. If they have, they'll go this way. So if they haven't, we want to send them the inactive tip. And if they have, we're going to send them the active tip. So this isn't the most complex personalization in the world, but it does make a dramatic difference starting to change the journey and shifting it based on how we split out by the usage data. So this one's going to say it's going to be a personalized title. So my collaboration is the secret to better design. So it's going to say ready to collaborate with your team. We noticed you haven't uploaded many files so far. Here's how to fill your lunchbox. And then you can say, show me how. And below that, there's this personal outreach from our success team saying, hey, if you want one-on-one help or through a group training, you can book a time. And that goes to a service we use called Calendar, so they can just slot a time and it's all completely automated, which is great. And then below that is the active tip. So this is people who have uploaded more than 5 files and are doing all the stuff we want. So we're going to reward them. We're like, you're off to a great start. Now share your, and we're using some more custom data, so file count, files to collaborate easy with your design team. So they might have 20 files and it's like, now collaborate with them. And we can do a lot more complex stuff there. I just wanted to show you the most simplistic version of this at play. So that's how we start to split up the journey. And so the next step is after these emails, we're going to drive them back into the same area, and then we're going to wait 3 days. So this would be day 5. And at day 5, we're less interested about inactive and active at this point. And we're just going to keep it really simple here and send them that summary of how they've been performing so far. But we do want to run that check again. Are they a customer? And so we'll say, no, they're not a customer. And this is going to be the account review email. So let's have a look at that. So this one says, here is what you've achieved so far with Lunchbox. And then we're just going to feed in some more usage data. So how many files have uploaded, how many times they've collaborated with their team, and how many files they've shared are all examples of that. And then we keep the email title, which works really well, really formal. Account reviews, they feel like this is something they need to pay attention to, which gets a much higher engagement. This is a really simple account review email. Obviously, the example from Zendesk where they looked at sort of benchmarking data is a lot more exciting and interesting, because if you're underperforming and then you see you're underperforming against a benchmark, you're like, oh, I've got to do something about that. And back to that earlier slide at the start where I talked about being remarkable, really you're trying to anchor them to this idealistic view of what they could become if they're successful and use your product correctly. And so that's the account review email we look at. Now I'm going to shorten, I'm not going to build out a whole 30 days, but one trick I do want to show you is with the inactive, it's likely when they get this email, they're going to probably, a small percentage are going to log back in. So we're going to shoot out another heads up message, and that one's going to be another push for group training. So like if you can't do this on your own and you just want to follow along, we'll push you into group training. I'm not going to show you the content of that message because it was late last night when I did it, and I think it's rude. So the account review. So after the account review, I'm just going to show you that final trick at the end, and it's the guilt technique, and it works incredibly well. So 4 days after that email, we'll run our same customer check. And then this is the email that when we started out, was just so incredibly effective for us. And I can't stress more that if you don't do this, you just should do it, because I learned so much about our customers and everything there that I ever wanted to know. And that's that survey that Guy talked about. So this is sort of an example of that. So it says, I noticed you, it should be hadn't yet purchased Lunchbox files. Would you mind sharing your feedback during the trial to help us improve? We'll send you a $10 Amazon gift voucher for your time. And so we'd survey our users. A lot of people, when we did this, would personally reply to me and share crazy stories about various things, would give me direct feedback. Some people were blunt, some people were very nice. And I collected all of this information, and I actually used it over the course of several months to improve every aspect of our product directly from people who were falling behind in the trial. You can literally learn so much. One of the things we learned was we had a pretty strong Zapier integration early on, and so many people towards the end of the trial would be like, if you would just integrate with Zapier, and we had for a long time, so we could make things like that more obvious. So you learn a tremendous amount. You don't have to offer the gift voucher. It's just an example of a bribe to get them to actually do what you want. And if you think about the cost you might pay per lead, $10 is pretty cheap to get really good feedback from your users. So that's a rough outline of how to think about the trial. And I can't stress enough, you're better to start with something incredibly simple. Know the key metric that you want to look for, which is greater than 5 files uploaded in our case here, and expand on this journey over time. Don't try and be too complex or too crazy early on. You just won't really learn anything. So let's fast forward now 6 months into the Lunchbox story. And we've been doing really well. Everyone sort of loves Lunchbox files. It's the quirky name. It's been just driving so much business to us. And we've hired an inside sales team. So how do we factor in sales into this journey? Because right now everything's really automated. So what we want to do is use the information that we've already been collecting in the trial to help start to pass leads to sales. So we're going to go into a condition here, and in this condition we can say team size greater than 20. So we're just going to look at, it's really bothering me. Yeah, so I'm just going to look at team sizes above 20. So anything below, I'm just going to let self-serve for the meantime, because that inside sales team just doesn't have all the time in the world in order to, call everyone as they go through. So what we're going to do is use in Autopilot, and the real truth behind this shape assigned to group is because I could never figure out how to work Salesforce lead assignments. It was just way too complex, so we just built our own version of it into a shape. So you can say, yes, my team's greater than this, so we'll just assign that to our inside sales team, and I've got a developer account connected here, but I'll say update the lead status to open, not connected. You don't have to use Salesforce here, but I'm just using it as an example. And then the other key option here, if you are a Salesforce user, is this checkbox, keep current assignment if it exists. So I'm not going to if people have been assigning these trial leads out before I'm the marketer, I implement this new process, no one is going to hate me as a marketer and be like, you stole my leads, because I'm going to keep current assignments as they are. So what we're going to do then is a day after the trial begins, because we want this to sink in a little bit, we're going to do a sales outreach. Now, the other cool thing here is we're going to enable this thing called a time and day window. And so that's only going to, no matter what time of day it is, send the email on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday between 9 to 5. Now, you can tweak this. A lot of really smart customers of ours purposely will send emails at 7, 8 a.m., especially if they're sales related, or Sunday night at 6 p.m., which is a great time if you're after executives generally. So people tweak this in order to send those emails, and so what happens is you get the delay timer, and then the other check we want to run, which is a really great one here, is the just checking that that lead record, the status on the field. So this is one way of doing it. There's many ways of doing it, but I'll just say contains because I know it's a little bit more complex than that. So we'll say if the lead status contains open, we're going to keep going and send this email. If it doesn't, we don't want to send the email because we might make the sales rep look like a robot or give away that we're using some automation to assist them. And so that's going to stop the email going out if they change the lead status to like working or nurture or whatever it might be. And then we're going to send a sales email. So if it contains open, then we know we're good to send the emails. We'll say yes. And then we'll send this, and this is sort of a real example of what we use today. So we'll send this personalized Jenny Smith, the sales rep now, email. And this is just going to say, I'm Jenny and here to help you get started during your Lunchbox Files trial. I'd like to invite you to a working session where we can discuss your file collaboration goals and work towards setting up your team. Just to confirm, is this the first time using file collaboration or you're replacing an existing system? So we're just trying to learn and engage them. These emails work incredibly well. And then in the subject line, we've got this really like non-caps, just, you know, I quickly type this out, getting your lunchbox set up. And so this is our sales outreach. Now, there is a tendency with sales teams to like to experiment with the sales outreaches they use. And there's also, I've seen it at sales meetings, people bragging about certain emails they use. So if you want to let the salespeople that you work with test different emails, we have this A/B splitter. And so you can say, we'll go back to yes. And we can place two emails here and just split test over time and see which emails might lead to the most closed opportunities and various other things. But I'll kill that from now to keep it real simple. And then finally, we'll hit publish and we'll just quickly go through it and I'll show you just some of the inner workings of how it all is set up. Now, oh, okay, I'm getting cut off. It's like being in a bar every night. So this is the dashboard, and obviously, so we're just gonna go back to Lunchbox Files. It's like incredibly delayed. And so what I'm gonna do is actually go through the process like I'm signing up, but I've already signed up, so I'll be discounted if I do. So I'm gonna put Guy through this trial experience, but I'm gonna put my phone number in. And so if you do want to play along, this is a real website. It's lunchboxfiles.com, so you can sign up and join. And so I'll say an event, I heard about it. And then so I did this on Squarespace, so I completely hacked it together. But let's imagine now we go into our app, and this is sort of our onboarding experience. Now in Autopilot, I'm going to see everything as it's happening in real time. So I can see Guy signed up. Remember, we tracked that form. It's now being captured. And I can start to see everyone that's visiting our site in real time here. And so if we look at Guy, he's now entered our SaaS trial journey, which is sort of exactly what we wanted. And remember that message, that's coming up in real time. So hi Guy, thanks for joining Lunchbox. We run a weekly session. Now if I click to simulate uploading a bunch of files, and these are some photos from when we launched last year, that's going to change the direction of the journey because I've now, in theory, uploaded a bunch of files there. So, and so we can see that, and all this information is shared into the CRM or can be output other ways. So we can see that they opened the training webinar heads up message, he was sent this email, and various other things. So that's a really hacky way of building out the SaaS trial and being able to analyze the effects in real time. Guy's gonna finish up now and talk about how to measure all that stuff. It'll be great later on with JD to talk about framing the content in that trial journey as well, but I'm gonna shut up or I'll get in trouble.
Awesome. Great demo, thank you. I didn't So I did have a slide about tracking and how you can do so with Autopilot, but we did start a little late. So we recommend we do some reporting in Autopilot. You can push a lot of data into Salesforce and use that for tracking leads and revenue. You can push data to Mixpanel for conversion metrics, for example, and then ChartMogul for MRR insights. So I think I'm going to go ahead and pass that over to Nick right now.